Hello and welcome to a special episode of Stumped, where brown guys talk all about their true love, cricket, unfortunately. I'm Naveen, and today I'm joined by the man who famously introduced Usman Tariq to Emma Stoney's Bollywood biopic while he was working in Dubai, Fahad Javaid. And of course, as always, we're joined by the man whose messages to Patam Nisanko on Instagram have remained unread for about 5 years, Ahsen. Absolute pleasure to have you both on the show.
Thanks, man. Thanks.
Thanks
Happy
a
to
lot
be
for
here.
having us, Naveen.
We've got a jam-packed episode today, a special T20 World Cup episode. We'll be talking about the infamous India-Pakistan match, the mighty Australians crashing out of the group stages, and our thoughts on the upcoming Super 8 games. Plenty to get through, but let's start with the big one. It finally went ahead. It had its own opening ceremony for some reason, featuring Hanuman Kind, who I'm not wholly convinced isn't Ishan Kishan's older brother. It was another chapter in the so-called world's greatest rivalry. And let's be honest, it was a pretty crap one, especially for Pakistan, wasn't it, Fahad?
We were pretty surprised with Pakistan's performance. First of all, as we spoke in the last episode, we knew that something might happen and the match would go on as planned because we were getting to hear that there were talks behind doors and something's cooking and the match will go on as planned. So the fact that the match went on was not as surprising as Pakistan's dismal performance. People expected a lot more from this Pakistan bowling lineup, and having a spin heavy bowling lineup on a Premadasa pitch would have always favored Pakistan. But I think what happened for Pakistan was that it all went wrong at the toss. After winning the toss, it was a very surprising decision to put the Indian team into bat, and that too when you're acknowledging that the pitch is slow. The captain, Pakistan's captain Agha Salman, at the toss, he mentioned that this looks like a slow pitch, and by virtue, a slow pitch only gets slower. It'll not speed up, right? So putting India into bat there was actually very, very surprising, and what happened from there was like pretty much expected. I think Pakistan at the toss, if Pakistan had decided to bowl, they would have taken a score of 150, 160 at the toss, right? So I think India managed to get only 10 to 15 runs more of what Pakistan would have expected. So you would have expected Pakistan to put up a little more of a fight. They just felt like a box of cards, and it just like a pack of cards. It all went like the really, the batsman really trying to force the issue, right? Almost every batsman, except for Saim Ayub, got out playing a rash shot, including Pakistan's captain Agha Salman. You look at this shot that Saibzada Farhan played to Hardik Pandya. Saibzada Farhan, like he has been in the form of his life, and for him to play such a shot, you felt that they felt the pressure of chasing 175 and knowing that we have given away 15 to 20 runs too many. A lot of burden for that goes to Shaheen Shah Afridi, who's the premier fast bowler for Pakistan. And what also really went bad for Pakistan is that the first over from Shaheen Shah Afridi really put Salman Ali Agha in a spot where he thought that pace off is the way to go on this pitch. And he relied on spinners for the next 18 overs. The next 18 overs were bowled by spinners only. And that really, really showed that, Agha Salman had no faith in fast bowlers, primarily because of the over that Shaheen Shah Afridi put in. But the Indian innings showed us that fast bowling was not a problem on this pitch because Jasprit Bumrah and Hardik Pandya pretty much finished the match in the first 4 overs. So it was not pace which was the issue. It was actually Shaheen Shah Afridi being in really crap form for the past couple of months now. So I think a lot went wrong for Pakistan. The toss, the decision at the toss, firstly, and secondly, the batsman feeling the pressure of chasing 175, Shaheen Shah Afridi being out of form. So a lot went wrong for Pakistan. But also, I feel that this is the kick in the butt that Pakistan need, in every tournament. And this is, how they get into their groove. And we saw Pakistan in the match versus Namibia yesterday, that it was a pretty one-sided performance. It looked like it was actually a very painful match to watch, because Namibia, like, they for at no point in the game were they given a chance, to like showcase their talent, showcase their skills. Pakistan just went all over them. And, I think the match versus India has, given Pakistan the kick in the butt that it needs, to get into its groove in these big tournaments.
Well, I hope it has because, like, we all spoke about it extensively in our last episode, and all three of us agreed that, okay, yes, we know India go in as favorites, and the history shows that they are favorites. But I mean, this was the first time in a long while where we kind of had a hope that Pakistan was really going to show up, especially as you mentioned, Premadasa pitch, slow pitch, an excellent spinning quartet. I don't know, pentumvirate. I mean, there's so many spinners on that side. And of course, in the end, they ended up losing to India, but they lost in such a way and by such amount that just doesn't warrant that kind of a game, I would say, with the kind of quality that Pakistan bring to this tournament. And it was really disappointing. In the end, they lose by almost 70 odd runs, right? So, I mean, it's not even that 173 was 10 or 15 runs more than what Pakistan could muster. I mean, they were soundly defeated and destroyed. And like you said, I mean, they basically lost the match in the first 2 overs India bowled between Hardik Pandya and Jasprit Bumrah, losing 3 wickets. And like you said as well, like clearly pace wasn't the issue. I mean, Shaheen Shah Afridi went for like 33, 34 runs in his 2 overs. I mean, why they really just did not turn up for the occasion. And it showed like the pressure really got to them. And yeah, so having Sahibzada up top, the way in which he got out, with, let's be honest, Hardik Pandya aura maxing by not the no-look wicket, if you will. But I think even more disappointing, because he's already got so much pressure on him, so many eyes on him, was like Babar Azam, like playing across the line on a hoik to a ball that just went straight on. Like, I don't understand what's going on. I don't understand how the pressure got to them so much, especially when they were coming with so much promise. I mean, Aga Salman bowled Abhishek out for a duck. I mean, Abhishek hasn't even scored a run this entire tournament just yet. But I mean, so many things went wrong for Pakistan to lose that badly.
Shaheen Shah Afridi, bowling a ridiculous first over. I think Salman Ali Aka was immediately on the back foot after Shaheen's over, and he knew that, maybe I'll have to rely on spinners only. But then there's also a question which has been raised by the Pakistani ex-cricketers and analysts, that why is Fahim Ashraf not being brought on to bowl, even though he was opening the bowling for Pakistan in the Asia Cup, and he did pretty well. Even in the final, I think he dismissed Abhishek Sharma pretty cheaply. And he had been doing very well. He was economical, and he had quite a bit of control on his seam bowling as well, his seam positioning. So he would have been a good option on Sri Lankan pitches, you would expect. It was surprising he was not given a bowl at all in the first 2 games. But now in the Namibia game, he was given the opening spell. And I think this is how Pakistan will go forward. But yes, coming back to your point, everyone did expect Pakistan to do a lot better than they did.
I think with these India-Pakistan matches, I feel like Pakistan, every time they play, always feel the pressure to come to it. Like Fahad said as well, I think it was shocking considering that they were playing in Premadasa after winning the toss to bowl first. Usually, Premadasa renowned for being shit-tip wickets. So that was kind of surprising, but it was good captaincy, I think, from Salman Ali Aga to bring himself on and get that wicket of Abhishek Sharma. But, I think if there's a highlight of that innings, it is Ishan Kishan's blistering 77 runs. Just the way he was able to compose himself. I think that's how you're supposed to be playing these sort of wickets, is to attack. I think that's your best form of defense. And that's exactly what they did. Surprised to see Fahim Ashraf not roll his arm, because he's a quality bowler for Pakistan. Could have done a better job than Shaheen Afridi. But the fact that with the new ball under Premadasa lights, you would have wanted to see more fast bowling from Pakistan. I mean, you look at India in comparison. I mean, within the power play, they got 3 wickets with Sahibzada's dismissal. The ball did swing quite a bit. It just wasn't at that arch to sort of play on the front foot and try to pull it. He was better off maybe sort of scooping it or uppercutting the ball itself. But yeah, I mean, like Fahad said as well, I think this will kick Pakistan into gear, heading into the Super 8 as well. And yeah, I mean, India, to be honest, in all their matches, aside from the match against Pakistan in general, looked quite rusty. Their first match against the USA, they were wobbling for quite a bit until Surya Kumar Yadav came and kind of salvaged the US. Even against Namibia as well, they got to a really good start, and then afterwards kind of lost their way a bit, thanks to some really good bowling from them. And also even the match against Holland yesterday as well. They only won by 17 runs, but you kind of expect these results as well, because especially that match against Holland yesterday, I felt like India were just experimenting, see what sort of combinations work. So I know a lot of people were kind of annoyed at India's win, like in the manner that they won. They felt like they kept saying that, oh, India were taking it lightly, but I wouldn't say that. I think they were just experimenting it, because if you think about it now, you don't carry over the points or the net run rate into the Super 8s as well. So why not chance your arms in a dead rubber and experiment? But it'll be interesting to see how Pakistan evolve in the Super 8s as well. I think they would have gotten some confidence, especially that match against Namibia. Like you said, Fahim Ashraf actually bowled a few overs as well and looked quite decent. So I think that's how Pakistan should go heading forward. Babar Azam, I think, needs to be dropped, especially in the match yesterday against Namibia. They sent Shadab Khan ahead of him. And to be honest, it was quite comical seeing Babar Azam's reaction. But I feel like it's just been a tough year for Babar Azam. 2026, was told to retire, denied a single during the match against in the BBL.
The power surge, which ended up being strategically quite good for the Sixers anyway. I mean,
but this would dent his confidence. He's already out of form, and this stuff like these would dent his confidence. And I just think, look, Babar Azam was a quality player. I just don't think he's built for T20. I personally would have rather seen Rizwan or Fakhr Zaman play against India than Babar Azam.
You mentioned India sort of experimenting a little bit. Let's be honest, like they were so far ahead of the game that they actually did end up sort of taking it lightly. Sky literally brought in Tilak Varma and Rinku Singh to bowl some of the last few overs against Pakistan, right? Which was kind of like taking the piss out of Pakistan, let's be honest. And regarding Pakistan as well, it just seems like they just lost any sort of strategy or thought process in their chase, right? Like the moment those 3 wickets fell in the first 2 overs, should I say, it was like any idea of how they can kind of salvage the game or any sort of plans they may have had before. There was no innovation. There seemed to be very little momentum, other than Usman in the end, who kind of played a pretty decent hand. All around him, wickets were just falling let's be honest, like the most disappointing ways possible. And yeah, no innovation with the ball striking in many ways, right? We didn't see any sort of interesting shots or trying to work the field in any sort of way. It just really showed that they kind of succumbed to the pressure. And yeah, it really did come out there on the field that they just seemed nervous, I guess. So, but like both of you have mentioned, like Fahad especially mentioned, this hopefully is the kick up the butt that Pakistan needs. And let's be honest, every international tournament that Pakistan participates in, they usually do need some sort of moment of reckoning to get that ball rolling. And once that ball starts rolling, like, watch out, Pakistan suddenly become a dangerous force and a heavy hitting favorite in some ways, a dark horse, backhanded favorite in some ways. So I'm hoping that Pakistan are hitting their peak at the right time and hopefully bringing that form into the Super 8s.
You can tell that Pakistan just needs to get its combination right. So there's still weak links in the team, Babar Azam being one of them. Usman Khan has not looked too impressive with the bat or with the gloves. Yes, he had his moments in the India-Pakistan game, but still he's not up there to international standards. I think Khwaja Nafi can take his spot. Khwaja Nafi looks like a promising talent. He's good with the gloves. He's a bit more active when it comes to T20 cricket. Babar Azam can easily be replaced by Fakhr Zaman, who brings a lot more stability in the middle overs. Especially, he's good at taking on spin in the middle overs, clearing the ropes more often than Babar Azam can. So I think, Pakistan just needs to get its combination right. With Shaheen Shah Afridi dropped, Salman Mirza back in the team, I think they just need to fiddle with their batting order a little, and Pakistan can be a very, very good team in the Super 8s.
Talking about Super 8s, there's one relatively large omission from the Super 8s this year, and that is the mighty Australians crashing out in the group stages. Crashing out, I think, is a bit of an understatement. They were thoroughly dismantled by Zimbabwe, and then they were absolutely destroyed by Sri Lanka and an absolutely incredible Pathum Nissanka. It really is a reflection on, I guess you could say, Australia's attitude in some ways towards international T20 cricket. I would say it was a pretty shameful performance, given the fact that it seemed to be that they had prepared a team to play in India, but there was maybe like an element of hubris in believing that they would just kind of, I guess, ride on the coattails of their own talent to get into the knockout stages. I mean, it's a bit of a humbling experience for Australia, but once again, also goes to show just how much the gap, if you will, has closed between the so-called minnows and the full member nations, particularly Australia. What were your thoughts on how they exited the tournament?
Yeah, no, I think, look, Australia had a relatively decent squad. People would say that, okay, fine, they look very light without Cummins, Hazelwood, Stark. And yes, the bowling did look a little bit light, but you look at the batting lineup, for example, they have match winners, like from batting from 1 to 6. Travis Head, Tim David, Cameron Green is going through a bad patch right now, but I think I think Cameron Green needs a bit of a break from cricket for now. I think this needs to go on holiday, clear his mind, kind of get rid of that pressure, find himself, and then come back training, and I'm sure he'll come back stronger. But even then, you got Maxwell, Josh English, sorry, Tim David. Like, these are all superstar players. Glenn Maxwell as well. But yeah, I think it's a bit of both. Australia were clinical against Ireland in that match. Nathan Ellis looked unplayable. Used his back of the hand slow ball, was able to bowl at full pace and kind of shock the batsman. But against Zimbabwe as well and Sri Lanka, they were only able to take 4 wickets in 2 matches and were bowled out twice as well. But I think if you're going to be talking about Australia's downfall, you should also be talking about Zimbabwe's rise as well. I remember before the tournament started as well, I said that Zimbabwe have a very good team, great blend of youth and experience. And even some of the players that aren't playing right now, that are playing domestic cricket, like Wesley Madhaveri, Yuri, who else? Andy Blakeney, Jonathan Campbell, Anton Nakvi. Like, these are all players that haven't been selected, but they have absolute insane potential. So Zimbabwe, I think, assessed the conditions really well. They bowled according to their plans. I think they bowled quite a few slow balls. But the most important thing was their fielding. Zimbabwe were ridiculous in the field. And they usually do that when they play against Australia. The fielding just somehow just goes up a level. But yeah, look, credit needs to be given to Zimbabwe. I think people are constantly talking about Australia being poor, but you need to give credit to Zimbabwe. And even the way Sri Lanka played as well. I'm happy to be proven wrong. I remember, like, earlier I said that Sri Lanka are going to crash out of the group stages, considering the form that we were in. But I think now we found out 11. They switched from a 7-4 to a 6-5, which I think is quite useful because you look at the injuries now that happened. Sri Lanka were playing Australia. Hathirana got injured, right? So they had to replace him. And Kamida Mendes came, rolled his arm over, and got a wicket as well. So I think Sri Lanka would fancy their chances in the Super 8. It's going to be tough. England, New Zealand, and Pakistan are 3 dangerous teams that you can't take lightly. So if Sri Lanka are able to replicate that form heading in the Super 8, then I think they should be able to qualify for the semi-finals. But I can't wait to see. And also, like, associates cricket in general. You look at the way Italy were playing as well. Yes, they lost to West Indies, but in the other matches as well, they looked really good. They gave England a good run for their money. Nepal did the same thing against England as well. And then you look at Namibia, were a bit poor. So it was Holland, I think. But you can kind of see the quality increasing in these associate teams. And I hope, within the next couple of tournaments, they'll be able to increase the number of teams participating. Because what this is going to do is this is going to grow the sport in all these different countries. Like, you look at the turnout, the Nepalese turnout in all the matches. It felt like a whole match for them, right? And it was the same when they were playing the 2024 T20 World Cup. So it's great to see. I think, Australia, I don't think they take this format seriously at all. But even then, that's no excuse because they had a very good team.
But it really is a testament to how a lot of these smaller and associate teams are playing, like the quality of cricket they're bringing into the tournament. Fahad, you watching this iteration of the T20 World Cup, like, what are your thoughts on the way some of these so-called weaker teams have been playing? Like, I've personally found it to be really entertaining. I would argue that this has probably been the best T20 World Cup I've seen so far.
It's been good to see the smaller nations put up a good fight at the in this tournament. But as we spoke in our last episode as well, I did say that yes, I expect these smaller nations to do well. I do, however, expect that there will not be too many upsets. And now that the group stages as good as over, we can say that we've seen our share of upsets. And the only upset that we've really seen is Zimbabwe beating Australia, right? Besides that, yes, the smaller teams have done well. Nepal has done very well. Italy gave England a run for their money, almost chased a score of 200 in 20 overs. USA, we saw USA give India a run for their money and also scored 200 plus in both the warm-up games. Yes, the smaller nations have done well, but we have not seen too many upsets. Upsets are usually you would see a lot of upsets in pitches which are uncertain, like the ones that we saw in USA and West Indies in the previous World Cup. However, yes, I do agree with the fact that the gap is closing in now, and the good teams have to play good cricket on the day to win. So it's not like a walk in the park anymore. T20 is becoming very, very competitive, and the smaller nations, yes, they're also becoming very competitive. And a very exciting proposition has just emerged in the Pakistani cricket circle, that the PCB is considering to host a tournament with the Pakistan A team and these smaller nations, including Italy, Scotland, Ireland, maybe, and have a little tournament with these teams, which will also develop the Pakistan young talent and also give these associate nations more practice for these tournaments. So it's good to see that the big cricket boards, PCB being the fourth largest cricket board, talking about the smaller teams, taking these smaller teams seriously now, and also considering them to be a good ground for practice for their young talent. So I think it's good. It's good for the development of cricket. It's good for the development of the test playing nations as well, because see, we what we see usually is the big three playing one another more often than not. And it's good that these smaller teams will come in and make cricket more competitive and maybe give big three a run for their money later on.
Yeah, and it's good that you mentioned that because look, I'll be honest, like if we're talking about the World Cup, basically the T20 World Cup. I mean, in the past, I used to sort of whine a little bit about like the fact that it happened every 2 years, so to speak, and I felt that personally that kind of reduced the value of the T20 World Cup. I've actually come round now seeing the results of how well these smaller nations have been playing. For them, the T20 World Cup is the pinnacle of their sport, and it is what they work really hard towards every 2 years. This is what they're building their games around. This is how they're developing their younger players. This is how they're using it, I should say, as an event to showcase their talent, what they're actually capable of, right? And this is only good for the game. And the fact that it happens in these 2 year cycles is highly beneficial for the players themselves as well, right? Because now they're on the world stage, they're getting noticed. This means that can lead to other contracts in other leagues, which can bring more money into the game, which can spread the game further to other countries. But I really disagree with there's this kind of, I guess you could say, this idea in Australia that T20 cricket is it's colloquially referred to as it's having a hit and giggles, right? Which is just wrong. I think it really represents a really backward way of thinking. Let's be honest, like everyone is highly critical of the fact that the ICC seems to be tending towards monopolization. And that is very much the atmosphere here in Australia, right? Like it's strong criticism against that kind of a push towards that monopolization. However, Cricket Australia is, as you mentioned, one of the big three. They are a major beneficiary of that juncture, which means they really should be pulling their weight when it comes to developing the game and investing in developing young talent around the T20 format. You can't just ignore a format because you think the general public don't consider it important enough. There's so much more at stake here. And literally the rest of the world really does value the World Cup, the T20 World Cup, and value the T20 game. And it is, let's be honest, as much as it may hurt some of the cricket Puritans like us here, for example, T20 cricket is the way of the future. It is the way the game will spread. It is the way that will allow these smaller nations, these newer cricketing nations, to develop an interest and to cultivate an atmosphere where people will actually be interested and following these players, right? And for Australia to just kind of do away with it because they don't really take it all that seriously or it's not as important, is a real cop-out. These players try their hardest. And the Australian cricket team, there's no way that we can say that they didn't try their best. They did, and they will be shattered from this loss, right? But I think it deserves a much more deeper conversation, and it shouldn't be written off. Australia does have a responsibility to the game of cricket. And given what they represent, given the history that they have, given the war cabinet that they have and all the trophies that they've won, there really is no excuse that for them to be not placing enough importance on this format, right? Australia came in as favourites, right, as they usually do in most of these tournaments. But let's be honest, I mean, their team was riddled with injuries. I mean, they have no Hazelwood, they have no Cummins, no Bartlett, no Doggett was there injured as well. You know, a lot of their players were injured, and a lot of their players who were playing on the team were also out of form. I think it's time for Maxi to call it quits. I'm going to be 100% honest. I think, you know, Glenn Maxwell, fantastic cricketer, excellent record. But like 2 years ago in an interview, he said he was trying to get back onto the Australian Test team. I have no idea why. And it really has been quite disappointing returns since his performance in the 2023 ODI World Cup. The whole team looks like it needs a complete reshuffling. And in order for that to happen, more intense conversations about how serious Australians take T20 cricket need to take place. So this is a bit of a wake-up call. But once again, Zimbabwe dismantled Australia. Like I said, they didn't even beat them. They dismantled them. They played to their strengths. They had plans for every Australian batter. Their fielding was phenomenal. Blessing Muzarabani, I would argue, has been one of the best bowlers of this tournament. And they didn't even need Ngarava on the side. So I'm really excited to see all the teams in the Super 8s. I'm excited to see how Zimbabwe goes. And talking about the Super 8s, I'm also interested to get your guys' takes on how you think the Super 8s are going to play out and what teams do you think we should be looking out for, and maybe even some predictions.
I would say West Indies are the sleeping giants right now. I think it's been a while since we saw West Indies play some beautiful cricket. They've got a really good squad. On paper, people may kind of doubt the West Indies, but after seeing their performances like throughout the group stages, I think they won all of their matches. And for me, one of the standout players was Gudakesh Modi. Why? Because traditionally he's a left-arm spinner, but what he's been able to implement, I would say probably over the past few months to about a year, was his ability to pull wrist spin as well. So to have both those options, especially at that match, I think it was against England in Kolkata, it was phenomenal. Like got the ball to turn like quite a bit, kind of bamboozled the batters. But you look at Shamar Joseph, Shea Hope, I think scored 75 today. And you got Sharfain, Rutherford, Shimron Hetmeyer. Like these are, top quality players. So I think with the West Indies, you kind of need to keep an eye out for them. Yeah, they're going to be in a group with South Africa, India, and who's the other one?
Zimbabwe.
Yeah, of course. So I think it's going to be good, and you never know. Like back in 2012, West Indies weren't really considered the favourites, and then in the final they turned us over in our home ground. So look, I would say keep an eye out for West Indies. I think they're going to be the dark horses. So is Zimbabwe as well. Just how much of a unit they play as. They're a really good fielding side. They've got a good bowling squad as well. With the likes of Graham Creamer, Brad Evans, Muzrabani, and Garava. And to an extent, like even Sikandaraza as well, has got the golden arm. So Zimbabwe are going to be a very tough team to face. Personally, on the other group, I would say Sri Lanka should fancy their chances as well. England kind of do look a bit depleted at times, but New Zealand are just a force to be reckoned with. Looked really, really good in the group stages. It has from that match against South Africa. I think even South Africa as well should be favourites to go into the semi-finals. I mean, they're just a complete squad now, and I think that first trophy last year, I think that's given them a lot of confidence heading into other tournaments as well. But yeah, for me, Super 8's predictions, I think in Group A, India and perhaps South Africa will qualify, but West Indies and Zimbabwe will give them a good run for their money. But from the other group, I would say New Zealand. It'll be a toss-up, I think, between New Zealand, England, and Sri Lanka. It depends on what Sri Lanka turns up. If it's a Super 8 Sri Lanka if it's a group stage of Sri Lanka that shows up, then yeah, they've got a good chance. But I've seen this play out before last year in the Asia Cup. We were clinical in the group stages and then capitulated during the knockout round as well. So yeah, those are my predictions.
Fahad, what about you? What are your thoughts on the Super 8s?
Man, I just feel that the ICC has done a really good job here to ensure that, the top teams make it to the Super 8s, the kind of format that they set up, the pre-seeded format where you knew which team would be coming into which group. We already knew that Group B would have England, New Zealand, Sri Lanka, and Pakistan. Group A would have India, West Indies, Australia, which has been replaced by Zimbabwe. And then you have South Africa. So we knew which teams would show up. It was only a matter of if there would be any upset and any big team would be knocked out, then another team would take its place, like Zimbabwe took Australia's place. But the ICC had already set this up. It's been a wonderful World Cup, as you said. It's been very exciting, very entertaining, primarily because of the fixtures, the way that the matches have been set up. And ICC has ensured that, it sets up the best matches, the most competitive matches. And also, it ensured that it has the marquee India versus Pakistan event in the very first round. And trust me, ICC has done its best to ensure that Pakistan make it to the next round this time. They set them up in a very easy group, right? They've done everything in their capacity to ensure that Pakistan make it to the next round, and in all probability have another India versus Pakistan match, which is also very much possible if Pakistan make it to the semi-final, because the top team of Group A plays the second team of Group B, and that could very much be India versus Pakistan, right? So, but if we dissect the groups now, having India, South Africa, West Indies, and Zimbabwe in the first group, I think you would tend to think that India would be one to make it to the next round. Then it's between West Indies and South Africa. Now, I personally think that South Africa, New Zealand have been the strongest teams of the tournament. It's just that South Africa have shown, a glimpse of what they can do under pressure. Where we saw the game versus Afghanistan. So even though the chokers tag might not be there anymore, but we've seen what happens to South Africa under pressure, and we saw a glimpse of that in the game versus Afghanistan. Besides that, I think South Africa have a very, very solid T20 side. And I just feel that, it's time. It's about time, South Africa, New Zealand, they show up in an ICC World Cup, right? They bring the best out, especially at the knockout. We've seen it a lot of times now that they play very well throughout the tournament. They play very well coming into the tournament. Something just happens at the knockout stages. And it's about time, New Zealand and South Africa changed that. So I think between the West Indies and South Africa should go through. That'll make it India and South Africa from Group A. From Group B, it's definitely New Zealand. I think New Zealand will run through the remaining three teams of that group. And then it's between England, Pakistan, Sri Lanka. England, I believe, will not do too well on Sri Lankan pitches when it will come to Pakistan versus England. I think England will not have much of a chance versus the Pakistani spinners, because we know England only knows one way to play. And they would fancy their chances on a flat track on a high scoring pitch, but on Sri Lankan pitches versus quality spinners like Pakistan, I don't think they have much of a chance. Same would be versus Sri Lanka. I don't think England would fancy their chances against Sri Lanka either. So I think the second spot will be between Sri Lanka versus Pakistan, and I feel that the game versus the Pakistan versus Sri Lanka match will pretty much decide who will go through. I think the winner of that, you could say that's a potential, that's like a virtual quarter-final, the Pakistan versus Sri Lanka game. So I think the winner between Pakistan and Sri Lanka will make it to the semi-finals.
I think, Fahad, you're probably the first person I've heard actually compliment the preceding fixtures. But I guess, to be fair, I haven't heard a Pakistani fan's perspective on it, and it really does actually kind of make sense when you put it that way. And yeah, look, let's be honest. I think India, as both of you correctly mentioned, I mean, they're arguably the favorites to win the tournament. But I mean, New Zealand and South Africa, I think as well, I agree, have been the best performers so far. And I think in Group A, I think it's pretty much a shoo-in for India and South Africa. As much as I want to see Zimbabwe and West Indies go through, I think India and South Africa just have enough quality. And both of them haven't really kicked into full gear yet. Certainly not for India, right? In Group B, I agree with both of your assessments that England are probably just not going to make it through. They just haven't looked great, to be honest. They've got some fantastic players, but I think they're really going to struggle in that group. New Zealand probably look the strongest in that group. And yeah, it will most likely be between Sri Lanka and Pakistan. I agree with you there, Fahad. I'm not sure who's going to win that match. I think it'll be whoever can hold their nerve better. The pressure is going to be on both of them. And, you kind of lean towards Sri Lanka given their home advantage. But, with Pakistan with a bit of fire up their butts, if that tamasha gets rolling, who knows? I'm sure the ICC would love Pakistan to come in at number 2 because, as you mentioned before, that guarantees an India-Pakistan semi-final. So more handshake gate to continue in the tournament, which brings me to our final segment, which is I'm going to ask both of you, what's got you stumped in this T20 World Cup? Ahsen.
Sri Lanka's injury record. I mean, look, Eshan Malinga was ruled out in the third T20 match against England. And then now Hasaranga pulled his hammy against Ireland, ruled out for the tournament. He's a crucial player for us, man. Like, he's just like one of those MVP kind of players, able to turn the match on its head. And also, like, even in the last match as well against Australia, Patirana ruled out, especially when he started to look quite good. Like, it felt like he found his old CSK form and, was able to play really well. It was nice to see him again, but unfortunately he was injured. But the thing about this is that even though we've had 3 injuries to our bowlers as well, Sri Lanka kind of has the luxury of having a good bench. They brought in Madhushanka, who wasn't even selected before. But you kind of look at some of the players as well that haven't made it to the tournament. Tushara, for example, which I'm still kind of perplexed that he's been dropped. You also got VS Khan as well. So yeah, I mean, they have like a few good players as well. Even Bidira Fernando as well. Quite handy as a left-arm bowler. But yeah, I would say what got me stumped was Sri Lanka's performance, and also Afghanistan actually as well. They're completely crap performance. I understand they were in a hard group, but if you're a team that wants to get to that next level, like, you need to win your matches.
What about you, Fahad? What's got you stumped?
And I was stumped to see Steve Smith take a flight from Australia to India only to be knocked out of the very next game without even playing that game. So I think I was actually very surprised that he was not even part of the playing 11. It baffles me to think a player of Steve Smith's quality, after what he did in the BBL, cannot even make it to this Australia 11, which lost both of their games versus Sri Lanka and Zimbabwe. And to think that Steve Smith could not make it to the side for the second match versus Sri Lanka, it's actually very, very surprising to me. So I think that was my moment of getting stumped this week.
Yeah, I saw on Steve Smith. I saw a meme of like Steve Smith's T20 World Cup campaign of like a fighter jet coming onto an aircraft carrier, landing, and then just touching down and taking off right away.
Yeah.
What's got me stumped, just quickly, it's the opening ceremony fiasco, man. This crazy delayed opening ceremony before the India-Pakistan match. It's ridiculous in itself. But I'm going to be honest, like, I think it should have had artists from Pakistan and Sri Lanka present, right? I think it would have been sick to have seen Hanuman Kind would say Talha Anjum from Pakistan or Atif Aslam, and maybe like Sri Lanka's Yohani or Dilu Beats. I mean, that would have been awesome. I mean, where's the representation? Where's the shows of peace, right? Where's the collaboration between nations? All of that has disappeared. Instead, we're playing these games without handshakes. We're playing songs from Duranda during the matches. And what's really funny is like there were plenty of shots in that game, the India-Pakistan game, of Indian and Pakistani men holding hands in the crowd. And I, for one, I respect that bravery. Look,
yeah.
that's all we have time for today. If you've been watching our videos and you're enjoying them, consider giving us a like, drop a follow, and maybe some suggestions in the comments for some topics you might want us to cover in the future. And also check out Fahad's channel, Off Stump with Fahad Javaid on YouTube. We'll have a link in the description. Fahad, do you want to do a quick plug?
Yeah, please. I've been covering the World Cup since it started. So a lot of things that we've discussed, I've spoken in detail on my channel as well. Please do check it out. And I look forward to having you guys there.
Absolutely. We'll put a link in the description. So please check out Fahad's channel. It's been a pleasure. Thank you all. And we'll see you next time. Bye.
See you guys.